Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is Mike Hilvert. I'm the VP of Customer Success here at Sales Rabbit, which basically means I work with all of our existing customers, people who currently use Sales Rabbit. And when people use Sales Rabbit, they're using our app, of course, but we have different add-ons and things that can enhance their experience using Sales Rabbit. And a product that we've probably had longer than anything else is called DataGrid. Some of you may be familiar with this, may have heard of it before, but the idea with DataGrid, and I'm going to switch through this slide here a little bit. The problem we saw with a lot of our customers before DataGrid existed is that a lot of companies were wasting time and resources playing the numbers game with subpar prospects. Basically, it was the Wild West. You're out there knocking every door. You have no idea when someone opens this door, male or female, who they're going to be, owner versus renter, and you're just knocking every single door and cold contacting and hoping for the best. So what we wanted to solve with DataGrid is we wanted to put data in the hands of our customers to help them know, is this person an owner or renter, especially if that's going to determine whether I can sell to them. Age, home value, general household income. I'm able to introduce myself by name instead of saying, hi, are you the homeowner? I'm saying, hi, is Meredith at home? It's helping me to get into that conversation better and knowing how to pitch them properly. But as we've had DataGrid over the years, we've had a lot of feedback from our customers who currently use it. We're saying, this is great. It's the best thing on the market, but one rep will interpret the data one way and a different rep on my same team, these guys work together, is interpreting the data in a totally different way. Like there's no consistency within my company. Are we able to create that consistency? And also, and I love how one of our customers put it, what we've always wanted is a beam of light that is just shining down on the rooftop of the houses who are going to be our future customers. Like, tell me the future, tell me who's the most likely people to buy the product, and show me the people who are least likely to buy my product. And that's the concept with DataGrid AI, is instead of filtering the data or doing this little manipulation of the different data points we provide, we identified a way to use machine learning to train a model to create buyer propensity scores. So DataGrid AI uses existing customer data. Basically, if you're a solar company, it's people who have bought solar before. Roofing company, people who have a high propensity to do a roofing purchase. And so we take those people who are who align with the previous customers, people who have bought those different products before, and we use that data to identify who is like them, who's the people who have not bought but align with that model. And so again, we use machine learning, artificial intelligence to model the data. And we use, basically, we've got our traditional data that we've had with DataGrid, millions of different people across the United States. And we've got hundreds of data points about each of those different customers in each of those different homes. And then, as I said, we take existing customers, people who have bought these products before, and we create a model. We create a model for solar. We create a model for roofing, for pest control, and these different things based off those previous customers. And then we look at our data set across the country and say, who aligns with that model? Who looks like the people who have bought solar in the past or roofing in the past or whatever it be? And what happens in the app, and I'll show you in a moment, the configurations that can be done in our web app from a settings administrative perspective. And also I'll show you here what it looks like for the rep or manager in the field. With DataGrid AI, there's two different experiences. One is what you might think of as more of a management administrative perspective, which is where I can see what we call DataGrid Areas. I can see at the state level, county level, as I'm zooming down, census tracts, census block groups. What is the relative buyer score for these areas? There's a 1 to 10 ranking. There's coloration from red to green, showing how closely does this person align with the model solar, roofing, pest control customer. And so I can see these. I'll show you in the moment what this looks like on the actual mobile device. And not only can I see those scores, but if I were to touch on one of these polygons, one of these DataGrid areas, it's going to show me certain attributes, aggregate, average attributes for that area. So for example, what's the average credit rating for that state or census tract? What's the general household income? What's the general square footage? How long have the people lived in these homes, or what's the average age for this area? And that is going to help me to determine who I assign for these different areas, and how I prioritize these areas. I'm probably going to be sending my reps into the 9.6s, the 8.7s, before, if at all, I send them into an area that scores generally as a 1.7. So strategically, I just know where to send my reps in the field. And then once those reps get assigned to a territory, and you'll notice here on this previous screen, if you're familiar with Sales Rabbit and how it functions, there's this icon here. Let's say I'm looking at this 8.7 cell here, this polygon, and I say, okay, let's take that census tract and let's assign that to a rep. I can click here and basically say that polygon, assign Joe. Joe's assigned there. And then when Joe goes to that area and he pulls it up on his app, he's going to see these different icons populate on the map. If you've used our legacy DataGrid product in the past, this is going to look a little bit different. An icon is going to populate on each one of those households. It's going to be this diamond. It's going to have the score in there, the coloration, and then when I click on that icon, it's going to show me address. It's going to break out household information, number of occupants, length of residence and whatnot. And then it's going to have individual contact information. This is a nice improvement from the previous DataGrid, is that if there's 6 contacts associated with this household, I'm going to see all 6, or 2 or 3 or whatever that be, not just a single contact. So if I knock on that door and a woman comes to the door, I'm not going to say, hi, are you Jack? I say, I've got Meredith here as a contact, and I can introduce myself to Meredith. Age, gender, language, general household income, things like that. And let's say I am talking to Meredith. When I'm ready to move forward with this lead as an appointment or a go back or a sale, whatever that be, I just touch the status and the DataGrid pin, that icon, transforms into a lead that's going to move forward. So in terms of using DataGrid AI as a customer sales rabbit, let me switch up here. I want to show you what this looks like actually in the mobile app. So when I log into Sales Rabbit, it's going to take me to this home screen. I've got my personal stats, my appointments that have been set. I'm going to go to the Sales Hub, which is where your rep primarily lives in Sales Rabbit. And I'm going to zoom out and take a look at the countrywide view here. And I've got a couple of icons here, different ways to navigate around the app and different tools I can use. This icon here is DataGrid Areas. This is the ability for really anybody, but what we see in the use cases, managers, leadership, assigning out territory. I can touch that, and it's going to show me the DataGrid areas across the country. And as I zoom down here, I'm actually located in Utah, so I'm going to zoom down to Utah. It's going to break up for me into different counties, and it's going to score those counties. If I zoom further into a specific county, then it's going to break it up into the census tracts and the census block groups, like I said. And if I touch on this, again, it's showing me that breakdown of the different attributes of that area. I then assign the rep, and that's the area they're going to be working. I can turn that visualization on and off as I need to go and work that area. And then this area, I actually pre-populated, but it would just be simply drawing and assigning that area to someone. I can see all those different icons of houses. I can see the ones that are scored highest because they have that buyer propensity. They're similar to people who have purchased the product in the past. Here's a good one where I've got multiple different contacts at this household, attributes about the household as a whole, as well as the individual. And I would just say, okay, I ended up talking to Vivian. That's a callback. It updates to that status. So the power here again, identifying where to go, who to talk to, who are the highest propensity buyers. And frankly, as we beta tested this with some of our customers, we're not in a beta period anymore. This is fully launched in production. But as we've been working with a couple of early adopters, testers, interesting to talk about the different use cases. Some companies would say, I only want my reps to go and target those green icons, the ones that really align with that score. Others would say, I still want the rep to go knock the reds or the yellows or something, but they're going to be more cautious. I'm going to direct them more about how deep to get into the conversation with that person. And we can consult with you on your use case, what makes the most sense for your company, but really directs you and helps you to be more efficient. I want to pivot from that really quick and show you how this is set up in the SalesRabbit web app, because there's some configuration options here that are really relevant. I'm going to pull up my SalesRabbit demo account. And let's screen share that screen. Okay, little demo account that I put together for situations like this. If I go into my settings on the left hand here, this tab, click that. There's two relevant options in here. One is this DataGrid AI tab, and the other is rules and permissions. When I click on DataGrid AI, it gives me some options. And this is something that you can configure, or one of our customer success managers can configure and consult with you, is what buyer score model do I want? Is it roofing, telco, solar, home improvement? And we have other models that we're building and can work with you on. You'll notice that there's pest control and there's pest control best. This is a little bit of a funny one, where pest control is very service oriented. We've got a model that is just based on, did these people buy pest control? And pest control best is, these people not only bought, but they retained as a customer for a long period of time. Or, we're modeling based on those kinds of attributes. So a little more refined on that. You would enter this, and it saves automatically that that's the buyer's score that you're looking for. And then another piece of feedback that came during the beta process is some customers would say, when I appreciate the household information, the individual information, the buyer score and everything, and I don't necessarily need all these different attributes about the home after I've made contact. But what I do want to retain is the buyer score itself. I want to be able to look back and say, as we've sold to these people, how well has the buyer score model in SalesRabbit aligned with our success in closing them? Is our close rate increasing? And so we've made it possible for you to make a custom field, call it something like buyer score. And when you convert it from that DataGrid AI pin into a lead, it's actually going to retain the buyer score on the lead, so you can reference back to it and see how it's improving the experience of sales. It's increasing the close rate. The other customization option that I was mentioning, if I go to roles and permissions, as many people know with SalesRabbit, we allow you to customize who has access to do and see what things. As a default, the owner of the company is going to have access to DataGrid Areas, that's the polygons, that's the state, county, census tracts, and whatnot, and the DataGrid buyer scores, meaning they're actually able to see the individual household level scores. But you can control this. If at a rep level, you want them to be able to see the household scores, but not the areas. That's just not information that they need to see, or it's going to be, it's going to confuse them maybe in their experience. I can turn that off. I can control who has access to do and see what. I could even turn off both these permissions if it's just a role that doesn't need access to that content. So a couple of things to keep in mind and to share as part of this is that when we talk about the customers we've used to build the buyer score, that has come from a lot of existing customers, people that were beta testing DataGrid AI in the past. We have these models built, but we want to refine them and make them better. And so when people sign up with DataGrid AI, we ask for some customer information. Now, let me clarify that, because maybe that raises a red flag in people's heads right away. What we're looking for here is extremely basic information. First, last name, address. All we're looking to do there, I mean, we're not building that model off of the first, last name and the address. That really doesn't tell us anything about that person's buyer propensity. But what we do is we say, okay, Joe Jones at 24 Smith Street, and we look in our millions of records across the United States, and we pick those people out. We say, okay, this person is a buyer of such and such product. Who is like them? And so we ask them, when people sign up for DataGrid AI, that they provide some of that customer data that's going to allow us to just refine those models. This is not shared with anybody. It's retained completely within Sales Rabbit. And all we're doing is training those models to make them better, to help the roofing model align better with future roofing customers, solar model refine and identify better with future solar customers. Okay, so just looking through questions here. Question about DataGrid versus DataGrid AI. You know, are these products going to continue to roll on together? The answer is that we are planning on sunsetting our legacy DataGrid product eventually. DataGrid AI provides a lot of the same experience and value. In fact, I would say all of the experience and value that DataGrid has had in the past. But the buyer score, the multiple contacts, it's also a higher accuracy rate. The refresh rate with which we're going back and looking at, okay, has anybody new moved in, and is the data fresh, is it new? We're doing that more consistently. So it's a better product, and we are working with existing DataGrid customers to transition to DataGrid AI, and eventually we will sunset our traditional DataGrid product. Also, with any new customers that are wanting to purchase DataGrid, it will be DataGrid AI that they are purchasing. And as I said before, in the sales process, our sales team can consult with you on why DataGrid AI may or may not make sense for you, what model makes the most sense for you. And then with our customer success managers can really coach you on how to use it effectively in the field. Another question on pricing, as far as DataGrid AI goes, is there a cost increase compared to what we've had in the past with DataGrid? It is a slight cost increase for the increased value. Let me pull up our Sales Rabbit page here. One second. So if I go to our Sales Rabbit marketing page and click on pricing, I'm going to go to DataGrid, and we actually, not everybody knows this, but we have two different DataGrid products. We've got DataGrid Business Search, which is for identifying businesses within an area if you're an exclusively B2B use case. And then we have DataGrid Residential. So here's DataGrid AI. If I click on that, look at those pricing options. Billed quarterly is $24 per user per month. And then billed annually, it's $19 per user. So a slight increase off of what the legacy DataGrid was, again, for the value increase. But there's scaled pricing advantages with going with an annual plan there. Okay, let's see. I don't see any other questions at the moment. Anybody have other questions that they wanted to ask while we're on the webinar? Okay. So again, we've been recording this, and we're going to share this with any registrants. This is also something that I think will be available through our website. If you have questions, please go to salesrabbit.com. As you see here, you can chat to our bot. You can chat with one of our sales team, learn more about DataGrid AI, about Sales Rabbit generally, and get a demo where we can talk specifically about how Sales Rabbit can help you increase your close rate. Thanks, everybody.